perspective. I think when you become a parent, especially your children are your teachers. And
this isn't going to end well for you, Blake. Blake Lively just got dismantled in court by Judge Louis Lyman after playing the victim card one too many times. The routine she had leaned on for months, the tears, the trembling voice, the carefully staged public sympathy, was stripped bare in an instant. The judge slapped it down hard, refusing to indulge the act for even a second. You could feel the shift in the room. The air grew heavy, the gallery leaned forward, and suddenly it wasn't Blake's stage anymore. This time there was no director to yell "cut" and give her a do-over. This was real life, and the performance had finally fallen apart. For years, Blake had cultivated an image as America's golden girl, adored for her grace, wit, and polished charm. She played the media like a violin, knowing when to smile, when to cry, when to drop just enough vulnerability to keep the cameras flashing. But behind that facade, critics had long whispered about manipulation, about crocodile tears used to deflect accountability. And in that courtroom, those whispers were no longer whispers. They were front and center. Judge Lyman made it abundantly clear he had no patience left for her drama. The silence when he finally snapped was deafening. Courtrooms are rarely quiet. Shuffling papers, coughs, the scrape of a chair. But in that moment, everything froze. You could almost hear her career gasping for air. She had entered that day expecting sympathy, maybe even a moral victory she could parade back to the press. Instead, the script flipped, and the world saw through the act. Weeks of her relentless PR blitz had led to this moment. She had run to every outlet that would print her story, painting herself as the helpless victim, leaking just enough details to frame herself as the underdog in a cruel Hollywood machine. It was a campaign designed to sway public opinion, to weaponize emotion as her shield. But when she filed a claim that the court swiftly recognized as fabricated, an attempt to twist the Knock Me Too movement into her personal weapon, it all came crashing down. That was the fatal misstep, the one move that exposed everything. Judge Lyman's rebuke was sharp, almost surgical. He warned both sides to stop waging war in the media, but his words were aimed squarely at Blake. It was a public scolding, the kind of courtroom moment that lawyers dread for their clients because it signals the judge has lost patience. The message couldn't have been clearer. Stop the circus, stop the tears, stop the manipulation. For once, the narrative wasn't hers to control. And the contrast? Brutal. Justin Baldoni's camp hadn't been leaking to tabloids, planting stories in the Times, or staging smear campaigns. That was all Blake. In court, she was caught red-handed. The same tactics she had used to try and bury Baldoni's reputation now boomeranged back, exposing her as the architect of the chaos. But she wasn't done making mistakes. In perhaps the most desperate move of the day, she begged the judge to silence Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman. Why? Because Friedman was relentless. His bombshells shredded the narrative she had built piece by piece, exposing receipts and evidence that clashed violently with her victim's story. Her strategy was simple. If you can't fight the truth, try to gag it. But the judge denied her request outright. The irony was painful. After orchestrating a full-blown media circus, she wanted to muzzle the only voice exposing her lies. The humiliation was complete. Blake sat there, the spotlight burning hotter than ever, but this time it wasn't admiration she was receiving. It was scrutiny. Her legal team, once so confident, looked shaken. Her PR machine, once untouchable, lay in ruins. She had spent weeks believing she could outmaneuver the truth, that she could choreograph public opinion like a movie scene. But reality had a way of cutting deeper than any script, and perhaps the harshest word of all lingered in the air: cruelty. Not just difficult, not just manipulative, cruel. To be called cruel is to be accused of enjoying the harm you cause, of taking satisfaction in someone else's suffering. And that, more than anything, was the impression left behind. The glamorous starlet had been stripped of her armor, exposed not as a victim, but as the villain in her own story. Blake Lively walked into that courtroom hoping for another award-winning performance. Instead, she watched her worst nightmare unfold. The judge wasn't buying it. The jury of public opinion was turning, and her carefully crafted image cracked under the weight of its own lies. What she thought would be her strongest scene became her most devastating collapse. The performance was over, and this time there would be no encore. The kindest way a judge can tell you your lawyers are incompetent is to phrase it with restraint. To quote the truth in polite words, but no amount of courtesy can hide the sting. And that's exactly what happened in Blake Lively's case. The judge, with measured composure, basically told her that the very people she trusted to defend her were failing spectacularly. It was almost painful to watch because he wasn't mocking her, he was being professional, even generous, but everyone in the room understood the subtext. Her legal strategy was a joke. Instead of realizing the gravity of the situation, Blake doubled down, convinced she could bend the courtroom into her stage. She strutted in as though this was just another film set, believing she could embody the strong, innocent heroine battling against a cruel, powerful man. But this wasn't Hollywood. There were no retakes, no script rewrites, no sympathetic director to frame her in a flattering light. The courtroom demands truth, and the judge wasn't buying the act. Every attempt she made to spin the narrative only worsened her position. And then came the bombshell, resurfaced footage. Old, raw, and impossible to dismiss. Clips of Blake candidly admitting her secret plan to manipulate control of films and mislead directors into handing her more influence than she deserved. It was the kind of revelation that instantly strips away years of carefully polished branding. Overnight, the image of Blake as the charming, classy, family-centered Hollywood darling shattered. This wasn't just gossip or clickbait anymore. This was evidence. And in the world of defamation lawsuits, evidence is lethal. Because make no mistake, this isn't some fluffy celebrity spat. This is defamation, a serious reputation-destroying, career-killing legal battlefield. Blake didn't just whisper rumors in passing. She tried to bury a man's entire existence. She tried to fabricate evidence, sway Hollywood executives, and weaponize public opinion against Justin Baldoni. That is not petty drama. That is calculated character assassination, and the law takes it very seriously. If Justin wins, and let's be honest, his $400 million lawsuit is looking stronger by the day, Blake won't just lose a court case. She'll lose everything. Financial ruin isn't a maybe. It's a near certainty. Bankruptcy will loom over her like a shadow. The lively Reynolds empire, once the picture-perfect Hollywood power couple brand, will crumble under the weight of legal debt and scandal. People forget how expensive defamation lawsuits are. It's not just about paying damages. It's about legal fees, expert witnesses, endless motions, appeals, and years of drawn-out court battles. Hollywood divorce settlements look like pocket change in comparison. And here's the kicker. Hollywood's best lawyers don't come cheap, and they definitely don't work for free. Every hour is a fortune, every filing is a check, every hearing drains more millions. Ryan Reynolds might have to pray that Deadpool 3 doesn't just succeed, it has to obliterate box office records, because at this rate, he'll be footing the bills. Forget luxury homes, forget private jets. Blake's mistakes could drag her entire family into financial chaos. But even money isn't her biggest problem. The darkest possibility is prison. Oh yes, Blake Lively in an orange jumpsuit, facing cameras not on a red carpet but behind bars, is no longer unthinkable. Defamation itself isn't criminal, but fraud is. Perjury is, witness tampering is, fabricating evidence is, and Blake's legal tactics, twisting facts, planting fake stories in the press, conveniently losing evidence that doesn't support her case, are pushing her closer and closer to that line. Once prosecutors step in, this stops being a messy celebrity fight and turns into a criminal investigation. If even one shred of fabricated evidence is proven, she could be looking at charges that carry real jail time. And even if she somehow avoids prison, Hollywood has no patience for scandals this toxic. Studios do not gamble hundreds of millions on a name tainted by lies, fraud, and courtroom chaos. Executives are already whispering, making calls, cutting ties quietly. No one wants to be the producer who defends her. No one wants to be the director who bets their career on her comeback. She thought she could script her own victory, but instead, she's scripted her own exile. She won't just lose the blockbuster roles, she'll lose everything. The prestige, the brand endorsements, the image of the beloved star. What she's left with will be scraps, low-tier offers, if anything, projects no one cares about, roles that won't even trend for a weekend on Netflix. And hanging above all of this is the hypocrisy of Hollywood itself. Blake's agent, Ari Emanuel, is one of the most powerful figures in the entertainment world. His reach is enormous, his influence undeniable. For years, that shield protected her, made her untouchable. But even Hollywood power has limits, and the public can smell fraud. She wanted to outsmart everyone, but instead she might have destroyed her own career, her marriage, her empire, and maybe even her freedom. Let's break this down clearly because the writing is on the wall for Blake Lively. No more high-budget films. No more leading roles. No more glamorous red carpets where she struts like Hollywood royalty. That era is over. Do you really think Disney, Marvel, Warner Brothers, or any major studio for that matter, wants to tie themselves to an actress who's about to lose one of the biggest defamation lawsuits in entertainment history? Absolutely not. Hollywood is a business, and businesses don't willingly attach themselves to walking lawsuits. Studios don't gamble millions of dollars on someone who might be dragged through depositions, discovery, or federal hearings. The risk is too high, the PR damage too devastating. Blake is about to go from starring in blockbuster franchises to begging for scraps in low-budget indie films nobody will watch, projects that won't even trend on streaming. It's not just a fall from grace, it's an erasure. And then came today's crushing blow in court. The judge refused to give her the one thing she desperately needed, a gag order. Blake Lively begged the court to silence Justin Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, who has been relentlessly dropping bombshell after bombshell, exposing receipts that undercut her entire poor me narrative. Instead of shutting him down, the judge turned the tables and even threatened to move the trial up if the media circus continued. Translation: if Blake keeps trying to run her PR game outside the courtroom, this trial is going to hit harder and faster than she ever imagined. And let's not forget the sheer humiliation. Blake thought she could control the headlines. She thought she could cast herself as the feminist warrior, the innocent victim taking down a so-called dangerous man. She thought every outlet would rally to her defense, that the public would eat it up like another season of Gossip Girl. But that illusion has completely collapsed. Her name is now permanently tied to one of the biggest backfires in Hollywood history. Every future Google search for Blake Lively will drag up this lawsuit. Every article about her will have a footnote about how she was caught manipulating the media, caught fabricating narratives, caught running one of the dirtiest smear campaigns ever seen in modern Hollywood. This isn't temporary tabloid fodder that fades in a week. This is a documented legal case that will live forever in the archives, hanging over her like a scarlet letter. Let's be brutally honest. Justin Baldoni wasn't supposed to fight back. He was supposed to roll over and play dead, just like every other Hollywood actor who gets chewed up by false allegations. That was the plan. Blake and her PR army thought they could cancel him, blacklist him, erase him from the industry with a few well-placed headlines and leaks. They wanted him silenced, forgotten, broken. But here's where they made the biggest mistake of their lives. Baldoni didn't bow down, he fought back, and he fought back harder than anyone expected. Instead of quietly fading away, he dropped a nuclear bomb. A $400 million lawsuit aimed squarely at Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and their entire PR machine. He didn't just file a defensive countersuit, he went on the offensive, dragging every lie, every backroom deal, every Hollywood favor into the light. And the shift was immediate. Suddenly, Blake wasn't the victim anymore. She was the aggressor, the manipulator, the bully. Baldoni brought the receipts, exposed the tactics, and shattered the carefully crafted helpless victim narrative she had been clinging to. And then he went even further. He didn't just challenge Blake, he challenged the system itself. He exposed how Hollywood really works, how a power couple like Blake and Ryan could pick up the phone, call powerful agents, and destroy someone's livelihood with nothing more than influence. He revealed that Ari Emanuel, one of the most powerful agents in the world, actually fired him. Not because of evidence, not because of facts, but because Blake and Ryan told him to. Just think about that. His entire career ripped away, not by truth, but by corruption and connections. But here's the twist Blake never saw coming. Baldoni turned their weapon against them. By putting this entire machine under a legal microscope, he's forcing the industry's darkest secrets into the open, and Hollywood is panicking. This lawsuit isn't just about one actress and one actor anymore. It's about the ugly underbelly of the business. It's about how easily reputations are destroyed, how fake stories are planted, how careers vanish overnight because of phone calls made in secret rooms. And people are horrified by how far Blake went. The scandal isn't confined to her anymore. It's unraveling an entire system. And it wasn't just Baldoni, the actor they tried to ruin. Blake made it personal. She went after him as a husband, a father, a human being. Her team planted fake stories designed to portray him as a monster. They targeted his wife, harassed his family, dragged his name through the mud with precision. This wasn't just professional sabotage. It was character assassination at the most personal level. And now, thanks to discovery and sworn testimony, all of it is coming out. Every lie, every staged leak, every twisted narrative is being exposed. Blake thought she was running the show. She thought she could script her way out of reality. Instead, she's exposed, cornered, and unraveling in real time. Hollywood is watching, the public is watching, and the fall of Blake Lively is no longer a rumor. It's a spectacle. But Baldoni never backed down, not once, not for a second. While Blake Lively was running around playing the victim, crying for sympathy in every outlet that would give her space, Baldoni stood firm and essentially said, "No, I will not be your puppet. I won't play along with your script." That moment was the turning point, because Hollywood suddenly realized something. Baldoni wasn't supposed to fight back this hard, and yet here he was, refusing to be erased. And that's why the tide is quietly turning against Lively now. Baldoni didn't just defend himself, he exposed the game. And once the curtain got pulled back, everyone in the industry started whispering the same thing. If she had the truth on her side, why did she need to lie? Think about it. How can Blake Lively cry that this should all stay out of the press when she's the one who ran to the press first? She went to the New York Times, hand-fed them half-truths, framed herself as the victim, and tried to turn the world against him before the trial even began. And when that wasn't enough, she escalated. She started making things up. Justin's 179-page lawsuit ripped her entire strategy wide open, revealing doctored receipts, cherry-picked screenshots, and context-free evidence designed to smear him. The secret texts she leaked? Fake. Her PR team literally hand-selected fragments, removing key lines and twisting words until they painted Baldoni as the villain. But when the full conversations were finally revealed, it all blew up in her face. The reality didn't match her narrative at all. Suddenly, people were asking the question no one thought they'd ask about Hollywood's sweetheart. If she had the truth on her side, why did she need to manipulate it? And it gets worse. The supposed on-set footage that Blake swore backed her up? It doesn't exist, or at least not in the way she claims. Baldoni's lawyers have openly dared her to release the full, unedited footage. Not the chopped-up clips, not the PR-filtered versions, the real thing. And she won't, because she knows the uncut footage proves she lied. If she had evidence that genuinely supported her claims, it would have been shown by now. The silence speaks louder than anything. It wasn't just sloppy PR, it was a calculated attack. Lively's powerhouse publicist, Leslie Sloan, has been caught feeding false stories directly to journalists and pressuring outlets to suppress evidence that contradicted her. This wasn't random tabloid chaos. This was an orchestrated smear campaign. Coordinated leaks, planted headlines, carefully worded, sources close to the matter quotes. They wanted Baldoni destroyed. They wanted his career dead and his reputation buried before the trial even started. But here's the part no one expected. Baldoni didn't roll over. He didn't stay silent. He stood up when Hollywood expected him to shut up, and in doing so, he exposed the rot in a system that has been untouchable for decades. He revealed the backroom deals, the manipulation, the way powerful couples can bend narratives at will. And now, Hollywood is stunned. They're watching in real time as Blake's carefully constructed facade crumbles. And Blake? She's desperate. I mean, desperate in a way that makes washed-up reality TV stars on their fifth comeback attempt look dignified. She knows her case is collapsing faster than one of Ryan Reynolds' rushed Deadpool rewrites. She's scrambling, clutching at straws, rewriting history, twisting narratives, spinning PR harder than a politician in a scandal. What was once supposed to be her ultimate victim moment